My beloved, today we reflect on the 6th verse of chapter 9 of the book of Shiva ben Siraj, which says, "Do not give yourself over to harlots, lest you destroy your inheritance." Our story today is titled The Lost Inheritance, where our story tells of a rich young man named Jotham, who inherited a vast fortune and lands from his father. Jotham grew up in a house full of wisdom and faith, but his heart was inclined towards a life of luxury and pleasure. After the death of his parents, he found himself a victim of money and freedom, so he surrendered to his lusts and pursued harlots, contradicting the advice of those around him. As the days passed, Jotham began to squander his money on these relationships. He sold part of his land to cover the expense of Johnson, then another part, until he ended up bankrupt, landless and without dignity. When he becomes distressed, the French woman who tempted him with his money abandons him, and he finds himself alone and empty-handed. Jotham returns to his old town, where he has nothing left but a small hut that he had neglected. There he meets a wise man who is an acquaintance of his father. The wise man tells him, "Jotham, you have wasted your inheritance that could have built generations. If you had appreciated God's blessings and preserved them, you would not be in this place today." Jotham repents of his sins and decides to start over, but he learns a harsh lesson that wasting an inheritance for the sake of fleeting pleasure is the path to ruin. The moral of this story reminds us of the Bible's warning against surrendering oneself to fleeting desires. Being carried away by bad relationships in temporary time can lead to irreparable losses, whether material or spiritual. We must preserve God's blessings and live wisely, adhering to the values that we take our lives for and not destroying them. And here, my friends, we conclude today's episode of Our Daily Bread, which is prepared and directed by Father Nur Al-Qais Musa. I thank you for joining us today, and do not forget to follow me on social media on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I leave you safe in God, and glory be to God always. Amen.